Hey, everybody.
Oh, hey.
Hello.
Oh, hey.
Fancy meeting you here.
This week, welcome. We're talking about 1983.
Yes.
And you were a grand total of what? Maybe 2 years old in 1983?
I was too. Yes. Yes, I was too.
But
I was surprised at how much stuff endured for me. There were some
Really?
cornerstones of my childhood came out in 1983.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. And how old were you, Heath?
I turned 8 that year. I'd seen some things by then.
Yeah, definitely.
Gone through some stuff.
Yeah. I turned 6 that year. Same. I don't remember this, but the first thing I thought it was 1983 is there's a Polaroid of me of my birthday from that year where I'm wearing a Thriller t-shirt.
Oh.
And I was like, I got it going on, man. Look at that.
you. Yeah, that's amazing.
So, yeah, that's maybe the only thing that survived.
You survived.
Well, did I?
Surviving and thriving.
Yeah.
Surviving and thriving, that's right. And what helps is that every other week we get a chance to air our gall on the airwaves.
Yes, yes.
With
great.
you, with each other, and then with all of our eager listeners who can't wait to hear what's galling us.
I think so.
I think that's what
everyone
happened.
has gall that they want to discuss.
Absolutely.
Everyone.
Do one of you guys want to go first?
I'll go first.
Great. Let's do it, Heath. What's your gall?
People with good intentions.
Oh, God. Fuck you. Your good intentions.
You don't even have to say anything else. I am on board. Best gall ever.
Barf.
I went to Target last weekend to buy a new vacuum. I got a new vacuum, everybody. It's a Dyson.
Nice.
It's cordless. I love it.
Whoa.
You got the Dyson?
Yes. Yeah.
Well done.
Wow.
Did you feel very powerful when you brought that home?
I did.
Yeah.
And I've enjoyed vacuuming very much since then.
Good.
Yeah.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah. So, but at Target, like, the Dyson vacuums are locked up, right?
Yeah.
So I found one of those kiosk things where you hit a button and someone's supposed to come and help you. And I hit the button and I waited a few minutes and no one came. And I tried it again and no one came. So I just went over to the vacuum and I took a picture of the box and I took a picture of the tag and I went up and got in line and just told the cashier, like, I want to buy a vacuum, but it's locked up. Here's the tag and you have someone go unlock it. And she seemed a little taken aback by that.
Huh. Why?
And then she called somebody over and, I showed him the tag and he scanned it on his little thing and he's like, oh yeah, I'll go get it for you. And so good intentions. Everybody so far has got good intentions. But he's gone for a really long time. And I'm like, dude, I feel like you should know where the vacuums are if you're offering to help. Like,
Yes.
there should be a,
Yes.
there
Yeah.
And how to get said vacuum, how to unlock it, and all the things.
Right, and so they have walkie-talkies at Target, and you can hear over the walkie-talkies, like him
no.
being
Oh,
like, does someone
God.
have the vacuum key? I need the vacuum key. Does someone have the vacuum key? I'm like, why did you offer to help if you
If
can't
you don't
help?
have the, oh my
Right.
God.
So while that's happening, the cashier, now that a line is formed, right? Because at Target, they want you to do self-checkout, but everybody's not doing it. There's only like 2 or 3 cashiers. Mm-hmm. So she just keeps raising her hands up, and she's like, sorry, everybody. Sorry, he's buying a vacuum. Sorry about the delay. And she's yelling my business to all these people.
What?
And I don't know. I'm like, come on, ma'am. Like, just have somebody else open up another cashier lane and, like, people will figure it out. Like, they don't need you to yell at them like this. And it went on for a long time.
Oh, God.
And then the guy, they finally got the vacuum up there. And then he's like, I can ring you up over here. And she'd already started ringing me up, right?
Yeah, I was going to say that must be what she did because she wouldn't take on any other customers.
Right.
Yeah.
And so... So he's like, I'll ring you up over here. I'm like, well, she's already doing it. He's like, no, I'll ring you up over here. And I'm like, what? I've got other stuff. And she's already started.
over you.
No, he was saying it to me.
Oh.
He kept insisting to me to go over to the next thing and he was going to do it. I'm just like, do you get commission on this? I don't know. Yeah. So finally they figured it out and I got my vacuum and the whole time, like, it's outside, it's about ready to just, the skies are about ready to just completely open up and just downpour. And I'm just like, come on, you guys, like, let's move this along so I can get at least to the car before it just starts downpouring. But anyway, I got a vacuum. It was harder than it should have been.
Did you make it to the car before the downpour?
It was just starting to sprinkle when I got to the car. Yeah, it was a adventurous trip to Target, I would say.
Do you want to go next?
Sure.
With your gall?
Yeah. I hate to do this 2 episodes in a row.
Oh.
But my unmitigated gall is my children.
Oh, I mean, I feel like they're probably always your gall. So you hold back a lot by not making them your gall.
I do.
every week.
I do.
Yeah.
This specifically was so my my older two have a long storied history of liking to pull pranks on me.
That's not
And
cool,
it kind of went
man.
away. Like, this was peak high school for them. Like, one time, Braden rubber banded the sprayer next to the water, so I turned it on, fully dressed for work, completely drenched.
Not cool, man.
Yep. Lots of other things have taken place. But what they decided is we had a little dinner last night, and they thought it would be hilarious because my birthday's coming up to buy a lot of confetti cannons and at random times shoot me with them.
Oh,
To the point that throughout the evening, I was so jumpy that when one of the grandkids would come up, I'd be like, what? Every time. And I tried to explain that while I appreciate this as a celebration, you are taking months off my life.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
when I die, I want you to think that you could have had a month, 2 months, 3 months more of me, but you chose to set off 3 confetti cannons in a 2-hour period.
I think it's also important to note how old Braden and Zach are at this moment.
Yes. 28 and 27.
Sure. So we're long past high school shenanigans. We are in full 20s, just assholery.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it happens fast. They are
Okay.
they are effective with confetti cannons. They understood it immediately and executed it with shrewd precision.
Wow.
One
Sounds like you admire it almost.
I do. You have to.
As the mom.
Well, once I
Yeah.
heard the backstory of it, that Zach was walking around a store, saw them, called Braden, and was like, "Hey, I have an idea." And Braden was like, "That's a terrific idea. Get me one." And then they both agreed on the phone, we should probably get Dad one too, because he's going to want in on this. So, to Mike's credit, he chose not to participate in the confetti
Smart
cannon.
man.
Yeah.
Smart man.
So the first time they did it was I was walking in from our garage, and they were in the house, and I didn't realize it. Like, they planned it so that they were there, and I didn't see that they were there.
So the killer
Shot
was
it
in the
off.
house.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which caused a tiny bit of pee to come out.
Of course.
It was terrifying, right? Okay, the second one, sort of less terrifying. I was sitting down. Someone said, "Mom," I turned around, confetti cannon. Okay, I was seated. It was a little better. The last one was the one that got me because I thought 2 had to be the max. I was like, why would no one has more than 2 confetti cannons? Like, and they laughed so
Nobody
much at the
does.
second one. I figured that was it. Like, we're good.
Oh, silly Aaron.
So thank God this time they waited specifically until I went to the bathroom. I come out of the bathroom and I hear a mom again, and I turn, and it happened so fast that I screamed because my guard is completely down at that point. The follow-up response to that one was, we purposely waited till you went to the bathroom so you wouldn't pee your pants.
That's very thoughtful.
It's like, okay.
But that doesn't discount the fact that there will be more pee that's going to
Yes,
come out no
yeah,
matter
like,
what.
you know,
I don't
understand-
care.
That's the thing with pee.
Yeah.
There's always
Don't-
more.
Always more.
That's the thing with pee.
Man, Heath, wiser words never spoken. We need that on a pillow or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
I now have a very jumpy disposition for a few days, I think.
Sure.
Because of confetti cannons.
Funny you should say that because we brought some.
Right.
That leads me to mine, which is the getting haircuts, both the act of haircuts and the results. Mm-hmm. Okay, buckle in. I've got a story. So,
Okay.
Oh, shit.
little background. I have always hated getting my hair cut.
Mm-hmm.
I hate the small talk part of it.
Okay.
I hate walking into like very overtly feminine spaces.
Mm-hmm.
I hate the fact that I still don't know the language of hair. I don't know what I'm asking for. I don't know
Yeah.
what you're talking about when you're telling me all of these things. So every time I feel like it's a disaster.
Yeah.
So for a good portion of my life, I've just been cutting my own hair. Just like, fuck it. I don't care if it's straight. I don't care.
Right.
But it's getting harder because my hair is getting thinner, like it's changing because of that lovely life part that we're in, us ladies. And last fall, I thought, I don't know what I thought, but I thought, okay, I need a little change. So I got my hair cut, and it was way shorter than I had asked for. So that was problem
Been
number
there.
one. Yeah. But I was like, okay, it's fine, you know? And I got home and I was thinking, like, over the next few days, I was like, this probably would have been an absolutely fine haircut. But the problem is, I'm looking in the mirror, and every time I look in the mirror, I see my mother and my aunt. And my mother and my aunt are very troublesome people. And so looking in there,
Troublesome people is great. That's a book collection
every
right
time
there.
I'm looking in the mirror, like I'm having a full-on existential panic. I'm like, oh my God, I look like my mom and I look like my aunt and they're shitty people, so am I a shitty person? Like it's full every fucking time.
Okay.
So I was always just putting my hair back, whatever. Okay. But the issue is, like, I got layers and stuff last time, so I can't really cut that on my own. So this week I went to another haircut.
Oh, no.
And this time I went to a curl specialist.
Okay.
What?
Yeah.
That's not real. So that's self-designated, correct?
Yes. That's why I was putting it in quotes.
Yeah.
And maybe part of the gall is me that I went back. I don't know. But, like, I was explaining to her, like, the whole thing. The fact I was talking even about the existential panic. Like, I can't get it too short. Like, I'm trying to grow it out, but I kind of want to, like, keep the layers, whatever. So the cut itself, fine. It's shorter than I wanted it to be. The shape is kind of weird. But the real issue was the styling.
Oh, no.
So,
Oh, no.
you know how when you go to get your haircut, at the end, they always have to do something with it to, like, you know, justify the cost or whatever. Most of the time, they would always just blow my hair out, you know? And that's fine, but I just don't wear it that way. I don't wear it straight like that. But this time, because she's a curl specialist, she was like, I'm going to do something fancy.
Oh, God. Oh, no.
I was like,
Did she say that?
Yes.
Okay.
Because she asked, she's like, do you usually air dry? And I'm like, yeah. And I was like, oh, am I going to get out of here without? And she's like, okay, well, I'm going to do something fancy. Great. So
What?
she first proceeds to put about 500 pounds of product on the hair, right? Then she's like curl by curl, putting her finger around and arranging it and, like, you know, trying to make it really curly. Then she's using a hair diffuser.
Oh, no.
So at this point, I don't have my glasses on.
Oh, my
Okay,
God.
right?
I know exactly where this is going. Oh, my God.
But the thing that I can see is that the volume is growing. The height is
Yes.
growing.
She got a diffuser out.
The width is growing. Like, it's getting substantial. I can see that in the mirror. So at this point, I'm like rehearsing to myself the speech, right? Like, oh, it's great.
I thought you were going to say you were rehearsing Tomorrow from Annie. Because that's what you're describing, what you look like.
I should have done that. Instead, I was like doing the people pleasing. Oh, it's great. You know, so I'm rehearsing that and trying to get my face right. So when I finally get my glasses on, I think her inspiration was maybe my 1989 glamour shot, because it was a lot. It was a lot. But I still managed to be like, it's great. Look at it's got volume kind of thing. Then it was the most expensive haircut I've ever had, $225.
For a haircut?
Yeah.
You didn't get dye?
No.
That was a haircut.
That was a haircut.
Holy cow.
That's
I was
an
like, what did
absurd
I
price
do?
for a haircut. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. So I left feeling like I'd been beat up. And also, at that point, like, I'd been thinking I'll do some errands on the way home. And I was like, fuck no, I am going straight home. No one can see this. And then I got in the shower and stood there for probably like 15 minutes trying to get all the shit out.
Oh, my God.
Because I couldn't even, like, move it. Like, it felt like wedding hair, you know?
Oh, my God.
Yeah. So when I washed it all out and let it air dry, I was like, it's fine. It's not great. I'm just going to put my hair back. It'll grow out. It's fine. Whatever. But I am the gall of having my fear of haircuts justified again and again. And now at this point, I'm just going to grow my hair out, and it's just going to be like Crystal Gale hair, like down to my butt. I'm just going to never cut it again. Never.
I gotta be honest, I am stuck on the price. I cannot get past that.
That was a kick.
Like a curl specialist gets charged more or what?
Yeah. Also, she was 15 minutes late. So I'm in the waiting area.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah.
I'm in the waiting area, and I am almost, there's a door out the back. I am almost like, it's 12:15. I'm just going to say, fuck it. I'm going to escape before she can come, because she's late at this point anyway. And then at that moment, she showed up. So I could have avoided all of this.
Yeah. Well.
get my haircut like every 3 weeks.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But you have a very distinct, like, you want to keep it short against your head. Yeah.
But I don't, and I give him a good tip and all that stuff, and he does a great job. And it's like, this makes me sad because when you find someone who does a good job and gets you, like, it's so great when you leave and you feel good and you look good, and it's like, it makes your day. And when you have somebody that, you know, shows up late and does something fancy and cuts your hair too short, like, it's unfortunate because it could be such the opposite experience.
I know. I love my gal, and she's always a good, that's a great way to put it.
I hate it so much. Anyway, gall. Fucking gall.
That is I'm outraged on your behalf.
Thank you.
I kind of want to show up there and be like, $225?
Yeah.
And just leave.
Yeah.
Show up, say it, and then just go.
And she'll be like, who are you?
What?
Yeah.
What?
Well, shall we return to 1983?
Hi, we shall.
Let's go back in time. Mm-hmm. Heath, start us off with something good from 1983.
Speaking of great haircuts.
Oh!
He-Man and the Masters of the Universe debuted in 1983.
That is a significant haircut.
If anybody's cutting their own hair, you know it's He-Man.
That's true.
He-Man and the Masters of the Universe came out in September of 1983. And I found out it only aired for 2 seasons. It seems like it was on a lot longer than that.
It was only 2 seasons?
Yeah.
They must have, like, just rerun the hell out of it or something.
Yeah.
It detailed the ongoing rivalry of He-Man and his arch-nemesis, Skeletor, who wanted to take over Castle Grayskull, which is the source of He-Man's powers.
Yeah. Fucking gall, Skeletor.
Yep. And if he took over the lease at Castle Grayskull, Skeletor thinks that'd make him powerful enough to rule the whole universe. So, you know, he's a dick.
Following the grand tradition of dicks all over time.
Yep. The summary was my favorite. He's a dick.
The main setting of the show is the planet Eternia, home of Prince Adam. That's He-Man's kind of secret identity. Prince Adam holds the sword of power over his head and shouts, "By the power of Grayskull, I have the power," then gets struck by lightning and turns into He-Man.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
He-Man is someone who wears a harness and furry underpants and boots as day wear.
That's right. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I forgot about the furry boots.
Also the name. He-Man.
I mean, this is deeply gay coded. People were worried about like your sons playing with Barbies and stuff. That's not
just watch He-Man.
Yeah, give him He-Man.
That's manly.
Mm-hmm.
So Prince Adam also has a twin sister, Princess Adora, who was kind of introduced later. And when she holds up a sword and says, "For the honor of Grayskull," she turns into She-Ra.
She-Ra.
Yeah. And she wears a much more sensible outfit, I think. It looks kind of like a tennis dress, and then she has on golden headband with wings, which I would think would make it difficult to hear, but somehow it doesn't really affect her. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So He-Man and the Masters of the Universe was the first children's show ever produced that was based on a toy.
Really?
Oh, the toys came first?
Well, because prior to that, the FCC had banned children's programming based on toys because they didn't, that's back when they cared about marketing too much to kids.
Wow.
But they lifted that ban in 1982, the year before the He-Man came out.
And they were like, let's do He-Man.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like thinking about it, you'd think the show would be kind of violent because, they're fighting all the time. But He-Man, he didn't really hit people or use a sword very often. He used wrestling moves on his opponents a lot, which makes the show even gayer than the whole thing already was.
Yeah.
Like there's just this adult man's thighs are just out on your TV all the time, and he's just wrestling around with other thighs.
Oh my God. I can't get past what you said that people were freaking out about, boys playing with Barbies.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, they're like, here, He-Man's better.
It's totally good.
Yeah. Don't worry about the boots.
So some of, there's lots of other supporting characters, other toys that were on the show, like Man-at-Arms and Tila and Orko. And the Sorceress. And then the things start kind of take a left turn here. There's Moss Man, Roboto, Beastman, Evelyn, Triclops, Merman, Trapjaw, Clawful, and Stinkor.
Right, Trapjaw also sounds gay.
Yes.
But, yeah.
So a couple years later, He-Man and She-Ra got their own movie called The Secret of the Sword, but it really wasn't a movie. It was just the first 5 episodes of the She-Ra series. And if that ain't sexism, I don't know what is.
I don't know what it is.
Give the woman her own damn movie.
Yeah.
Luckily, a couple years later, they released a live-action He-Man movie called just Masters of the Universe, and it starred Dolph Lundgren as He-Man.
I do not remember this.
Langella was Skeletor, and a young Courtney Cox was an orphan in this film.
That's right. Wait, who played? Was She-Ra in the movie?
No.
Again, sexism.
Yep.
God damn it.
So all the folks from Eternia somehow end up on Earth, and they fight a bunch on Earth, like Skeletor is trying to take over Earth for some reason.
I did that escape.
What's weird about the live action movie, though, is the reason Courtney Cox's character is an orphan is because her parents died in a plane crash, right? And somehow at the end of this movie, they figure out a way to turn back time. And so, like, Courtney Cox wakes up on the day that her parents are going to go get on this flight, and she convinces them not to go so they don't die, right? And I'm just like, well, wouldn't you go to the airport and be like, hey, don't take off? like tell them that so the plane doesn't crash. Like, I mean, still,
tell everyone this.
The plane's still going to crash.
Yeah. Good call.
Yeah.
Oh, Courtney Cox, what a selfish bitch.
I know.
I remember that, though, that scene at the end where don't go.
Mm-hmm.
And parents with anxious children everywhere were like, thank you for making them believe that I can come back from the dead. If they just stop me from leaving, all will be fine.
Yep.
That's impressive.
Wow. Where are you going to go from He-Man, Aaron?
Well, we got some options, but I think we're going to have to go with one of my favorite things ever to come out of the 80s. I loved it. I still love it.
It's a lot of
Fraggle Rock.
Oh, yeah.
It started the first HBO originals created and directed by Jim Henson. It ran from 83 to 87 for a total of 96 episodes. Henson himself described Fraggle Rock series as a high-energy, raucous musical romp. It's a lot of silliness. It's wonderful. So the program itself was sort of dealing with bigger themes. Like they say that they were dealing with serious issues such as prejudice, spirituality, personal identity, the environment, social conflict. But at the heart of it is just some crazy creatures doing some weird things. So you have the Fraggles, where Fraggle Rock comes from, which were like Muppets that had little fuzzy tails and crazy wigs, and they were kind of like the catalyst for everything that happened. Then you have the Doozers, who were these industrial little fellas, green guys with...
I forgot about the Doozers.
Yeah, they were my favorite because they would build structures and then the Fraggles would eat them because the construction material that they used came from radishes, and apparently Fraggles can't resist radishes. So the Doozers would always show up and build a structure because they were in charge of doing everything construction around Fraggle Rock, and then some Fraggle would inevitably eat their structure. And they would be like, and leave.
Doozers, how did we not choose other building materials?
I know, yeah. It's a lot. There's a whole, like... If you want to look it up and go down a rabbit hole, there's a lot of like social theory surrounding these different groups of people and like what the Doozers represent, what the Fraggles represent. There's a lot.
Meanwhile, Jim Henson's just like, they were cute.
Right, yeah.
Like,
They're Muppets.
Yeah.
Like, I just made another hit. That's what happened. There's also the Gorgs. They were the ones that made the least amount of sense to me. They were
they
like
the trash ones?
No, that's Marjorie the trash heap.
Okay. Of course.
The Gorgs were the other ones. I think they're in
These?
Yes, they believe themselves to be king and queen and their son like a prince, but yet they're kind of awful and they don't really understand anything, and the Fraggles are always having to set them straight. Then there's also Doc and Sprocket, who live on the other side of Fraggle Rock, which is what they consider outer space, but what would be known as like our world. Mm-hmm. And one of the Fraggles, Gobo, has to go into their area all the time to get postcards from his uncle who's traveling the world. And so he has to sneak in there, and there was always this tension about the dog would always see the Fraggle, and Doc would never, ever believe his dog. That there was something going on ever. And then
believe your dogs.
Believe your dogs. They're telling you what it is. And as we mentioned, Marjorie the trash heap. I
remember her.
She was supposed to be some kind of like wise, all-knowing figure. Mm-hmm. I was terrified of the trash heap. She would rise up and have things to say. She had 2 rats as like pets. And
boy.
It was always like, it felt like they were getting in trouble when Marjorie showed up. Like, no.
She does have a very sort of school marm look to her.
Yeah, a very aggressive.
And she's got a banana
Oh, yeah, it's gross.
Yeah, it's tough.
I feel like she had like a kind of a Mother Nature vibe to me. Like that's what I remember. Like she was sort of like kind of all-knowing and like would give them advice.
Yes. But I always felt, I don't know, maybe that was just my own interpretation.
You're gonna get in trouble.
Yeah, it was like, I always felt like if she showed up and had to set him straight, it was bad. Because there was like a whole element of her rising up to speak to them. Like, we woke up the trash heap, and she'd be,
Yeah. And there was sort of a Jabba the Hutt vibe about the whole thing.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, very true. So I don't know what it was about Fraggle Rock, but I was all in. I watched it nonstop.
I will routinely, every once in a while, just get down in Fraggle Rock, down in Fraggle Rock.
I was obsessed with the doozers. I don't know why. I would wait in the episode for when, because they always had some moment where they'd show up, build something, and get wrecked, and they'd be like, meh, and leave. And they never really said anything. They just made little noises and then left. And I'd always be like, guys, why are you doing this to them so much?
It's not cool, man.
No, it was, I suppose the first time I felt incensed by social justice. Stop taking down their creations.
My favorite one was always not the girl with the ponytail, but the other one, or not with the pigtail. Sorry, the other one that wore the long cardigan.
Yeah,
and she reminded me of B. Arthur.
Maybe that's what they were going for.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I think so. Yeah. So they did a reboot of this recently, like I think in 2017, and it didn't take off super well. And then they redid it again in 2022. I haven't watched any of them because I'm afraid to ruin the nostalgia that is that show.
Yeah.
It's a weird show. I mean, I'm not going to lie.
Very weird show.
It's a very weird show, but I was fascinated, and it's such a memory. That's why I said something that endured from 1983, because granted it ran through till 1987, but I remember watching it. Like it was in syndication for a long time, I think, where they were just rerunning.
Yeah.
Because I would not miss Fraggle Rock.
It's funny you should say Jabba the Hutt.
Oh.
Uh-oh.
Hello.
Because my first choice, I don't know why I got real loud there, but was Return of the Jedi, which was my first movie experience. It was the first time. I remember I was 5, almost 6, and I went to the River Hills Theater, which is no longer here, but it's also that theater where I went to see Top Gun, and there was the gross guy behind us. Yeah, this was a better experience.
Good.
I don't know why that good really got me. Good. Like you're speaking to the manager of the movie theater. Good. I'm glad that we secured that for you. Also, before you even say anything else, I absolutely love that there's this memory that child Amy has of her first movie experience, because I don't know if I remember the very first movie I saw.
I think because I was so pumped. I remember we were waiting in line because it was it was very popular. I was with my dad. I remember the Rancor on the screen. I remember the Ewoks coming on screen. Like it must have been clear very early that pop culture was going to sear itself in, because I have clear memories of that.
Do you remember your first movie experience?
I don't specifically. I imagine it was probably a Disney movie that we went to.
No, Dad was like, let's go to Star Wars. Yeah. And it became like, Star Wars and the other 3 movies became this huge part of childhood where they came on HBO and I recorded them on VHS and would watch them over and over and over. And I think now I can see that it was like a safe place, like it was very much just, I knew exactly what was going to happen. It was great. But I didn't realize how emotional it was until the new movies, the new trilogy came out starting in 2015, and the trailers would come on them and I would burst into tears and just not even quite know why. And then we would go to the movies. There was one time we went and I was crying at the end and you told me to get together.
I was going to say, when you said burst into tears, I was waiting for him to have another good.
Yeah. Good.
Get it together.
No, it was he looked over and he's like, oh no, she's in distress. And he's like, I got to make a joke. Get it together.
That's the most relatable thing.
Anyway, third movie in the trilogy. At this point, when Return of the Jedi starts, Han Solo's in carbonite. Princess Leia is missing. Darth Vader is revealed as Luke's daddy. And Luke has gone off and has quit his training as a Jedi, but now he thinks he's a Jedi, and he's acting like a Jedi, which is total white male privilege.
Yes,
Skywalker
facts,
right now. So at the beginning, they all converge at Jabba the Hutt's palace on Tatooine. And this is where millions of youths experienced a somewhat sexual awakening when Princess Leia is chained to Jabba in a gold bikini. This becomes a touchstone for Gen X kids. They blow up the place. Leia strangles Jabba. Oh. She gets into it. They fly away to meet up with the rebels, who have found another Death Star in construction. So if you recall in the first Star Wars, the Death Star is this massive space station.
You know I don't. I don't even know
that's
why
I'm kind of explaining it right now.
I don't. Okay.
It's this massive space station. But it has a design flaw that you can shoot a thing into a tiny little spot and boom, the Death Star explodes.
Oh no.
But in Return of the Jedi, they're building a new Death Star, but they have not learned their lesson because there's another design flaw that the rebels are going to take advantage of, which is that their nuclear reactor is a shaky little bitch. And that if you get it just right, it's going to blow it all up.
No.
So the rebels are planning on taking advantage of this.
They should have at least called it something besides Death Star.
They should have.
I mean, that could have thrown them off the trail a little bit, you know?
All they do is just like, it's the new Death Star.
They could have called it Marjorie the Trash Heap.
They needed a marketing.
Yeah.
They needed a marketing meeting, and they needed like a, yes. Jerry to be like, listen, what if we call it Death Star 2?
Yeah. I like that.
Before they attack the Death Star, Luke is finally going to finish his training with Yoda. And he's going back and he's like, look, I'm a cool Jedi now, but too bad, asshole, Yoda is dying. Oh. And before he passes on, Yoda lays a whopper on Luke and says, you are not the last Skywalker. And Luke's like, what? And he goes out and there's Ghost Obi-Wan. And I know none of these names probably mean anything to you, but
I know the names,
telling you this story right now.
Yeah.
Ghost Obi-Wan appears and says, you know what, Yoda was right. There's another Skywalker. By the way, I lied to you about everything. I know I told you that Darth Vader killed your dad, but actually I know, yes, Darth Vader is your dad, but what I told you was true from a certain point of view. I remember even as a kid, I was like, that's some sneaky shit, Obi-Wan.
Do you think George Lucas planned that, or do you think George Lucas later was just like...
I think George Lucas later was like,
right.
Personally. I don't know, because at the same time, then he also reveals that last Jedi, that's your secret twin sister. And your secret twin sister is the girl you made out with in the last movie, Leia. Yeah. So wrap your mind around that, kid.
That's
tough. That'll throw you for a loop.
So really, they were majorly fucking around with kids' sexuality because they were like, here, look at Leia. And then later they were kind of like, but it's a sister.
Yep, it's
like
a sister.
They were making it real weird.
Yes, very much so. Mm-hmm. They were confusing all of us bisexual kids. Back in there. So we catch up with the rebels. They are all on this planet, the moon of Endor, and they're getting ready to take down the deflector shield from Death Star 2. And they meet these tiny little bears called Ewoks. And Ewoks.
Oh, yes. Okay. Yes, I'm familiar.
The Ewoks kidnap them, but then they find out, oh, no, they're friends and they're cuddly and they're going to help us in this big battle. Okay. It's going to be great.
Okay.
Then Luke, mopey and weird, because that's the way he is, he leaves the group because he wants to confront his pops. But he was tricked. His dad's going to bring him in front of the Emperor. And the Emperor is determined to make Luke bad. But then another trick, because the Emperor...
This is like a real soap opera.
Yeah.
The Emperor starts torturing Luke to make him turn bad. Uh-huh. And Darth is like, oh no, I feel a little bit of humanity still. That's my son. And so he kills the Emperor. Oh. And then Pop and son reconnect briefly before Darth Vader dies.
When they showed Darth Vader with his helmet off at the end of that movie,
yes.
I just remember being like, oh my gosh, your skin.
Yeah, it's real bad.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, you're looking real rough there, Anakin.
Yeah, like you shouldn't wear a helmet all the time.
Like your skin is melded to the helmet. It's real bad.
Yeah.
So yeah, they end up blowing up the Death Star. Lando Calrissian blows up the Death Star 2 by flying Millennium Falcon and hitting the reactor, that one little weak spot.
Yeah.
Boom, Empire over.
Oh man.
Cue the Ewoks dancing. And a sad final scene where we see Ghost Obi-Wan and Ghost Yoda and Ghost Hayden Christensen.
Yep.
Story over, but yet not. Because in the late 90s, George Lucas decided to fuck with all of our childhoods and say, oh, I'm going to go back into the movies and change some things and then re-release them. So in 1997, he re-released all 3 movies, added a bunch of unnecessary CGI, changed some scenes... and then destroyed the original films so you can't find them anywhere.
What?
But I still have memories of, like, the original Ewok dance and the original song at the end. The original, dance at Jabba's palace. Like, all these memories.
Yep.
But they can't be found anywhere.
What's the deal with that? Like, why did he... Just
Power.
His own ego, or...
apparently. So anyway, Return of the Jedi. Boom.
Okay.
Sorry to info dump on you, but there you go.
No.
I enjoyed it.
We appreciate the passion.
I do.
Yeah. I think the little autistic nerd in me had a very fun just 5 minutes there.
Yeah.
That was good times.
Yeah.
Also, it was really funny to see like that this is all news to you.
If you remember in a Bras and Books episode, we almost had to quit at like episode 7 because I called a lightsaber a light sword.
No, you called it a laser sword.
Oh my gosh,
God.
he remembers what I called it. I called it a laser sword. And we had to take a break because the look on her face was like, I cannot be friends with you anymore. You just called it a laser sword. And I learned quickly that it's...
But hey, we got past it. Here we are today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look at it. Look at that.
Oh. All right, Heath, what do you got for us next?
There's a different movie that came out in 1983 besides Return of the Jedi, and that movie was called Risky Business.
Oh my God. Yes.
Yes, it was.
Came out in August that year and starred America's former sweetheart, Tom Cruise.
Former.
Yeah,
That's
it's
great.
kind of generally considered to be sort of his breakout role, but as we discussed a few weeks ago, he had a really memorable turn in Endless Love where he told his friend to burn his girlfriend's house down. And it's weird. It's weird for me to think of Tom Cruise in a teen comedy because even when I don't know. I don't think of him as a teenager at all.
No.
I know he's a teen at one time, but I feel like he's been playing characters in their late 30s, like his
whole life.
career.
I feel like he came out that way.
Right.
Because I'm not entirely convinced he's human.
No. I mean, even now, he's like in his 60s and he's still like trying to pass off as, he's 38,
So gross.
So in Risky Business, Tom Cruise plays Joel Goodson. He's a high school student who's trying to decide where he'll go to college. His dad wants him to go to Princeton, but Joel doesn't seem as into it as his dad is. And, it's the 80s, so of course his dad wants him to go to Princeton.
And no thought of, like, that's expensive as shit.
Right.
They're fine. They got money.
Yeah. Of course. If you could dream it, you can have it.
Yes.
So as usual in the 80s, Joel's parents go out of town and leave him at home alone in their huge, well-appointed mansion in the Chicago suburbs, which I think happens in 85% of the movies that happened in the 1980s.
Yeah.
The first night his parents are gone, he gets a little drunk and dances around the house in his underwear to Bob Seger, as one does.
Yeah.
And I bet when he's home alone now, he does Scientology things, like laughing
But also in his underwear.
probably in his underwear, laughing about David.
He's probably trying to recreate that scene from what was the movie with he did the naked dance at the end?
Oh, Saltburn?
Yeah, Saltburn. Yeah. He's like, no one's stealing my thunder. I'll be learning that dance. Thank you.
He's also practicing the grave scene.
Yeah.
Too. Yeah.
I assume he's in his underwear just thinking about where David Miscavige's wife might be.
Yeah.
That's what he should be doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Spend some time on that.
Prank calling Leah Remini.
Yeah. Prank calling. That's amazing.
Yeah.
She just answers and he's like, "You're a bitch." So the next day, Joel's friend Miles decides it'd be fun to call a sex worker on Joel's behalf. Again, as a high school student would do. Yep. So when the sex worker shows up, it turns out that they identify as male, and it's a thanks but no thanks from Joel. Again, I don't what? What is any of this?
They had to, that was always like the trans panic was always a huge storyline in the 80s. So they had to get that in there.
Yep. So before leaving, Miles gives Joel a number for a different sex worker who Joel decides to call later that night. And at this point, it seems like Joel and Miles have different preferences when it comes to sex workers. So I would have just gone to the phone book, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
But so the sex worker...
This is such a weird thing. Okay. All right.
The sex worker that Joel calls, her name's Lana, and that's kind of... Lana's more in tune with Joel's tastes. And so then they do it a bunch, The next morning, Lana asks Joel for her money, and he leaves her at his house alone while he goes to the bank.
Oh my God, I forgot that part.
So for me, there are about 6 people I'd leave in my house alone, and someone I met last night, sex worker or not, is not one of them.
No.
So while Joel's out, Lana steals his mother's Steuben glass egg, and she takes off. And Joel tracks her down and asks for the egg back, but her pimp Guido, actual character's name.
It's wild. Okay.
So Lana goes back to Joel's house to tell him that the egg is at Guido's, which somewhat makes up for her stealing in the first place, I guess. But then Lana stays at Joel's house while he's at school, and her friend from work, Vicky, comes over and they host a party. Again, Joel just needs to stop leaving strangers in his parents' house when he's not there.
Also, you got bigger problems. I mean, I know that you're supposed to be at school and they probably alert your parents, but like, you don't need to be going to school right now. Right. You have a sex worker who has this egg of your mom. Like, you have bigger problems.
Yes. Yeah.
This is where you're at.
You can
forget the science test. We're done. You got to fix this.
So, Joel doesn't want to have the sex worker party at his house and ask him to leave, but when he's trying to kick people out, Guido's out on the front lawn with a gun, right? So after Guido finally leaves, Joel and the sex workers go out for a spin in his dad's Porsche, which accidentally ends up in Lake Michigan. And to earn money to pay for the car repairs, Joel and Lana decide to turn his house into a brothel for a night, a solution to so many of life's problems. Listen, everybody, you're in a jam. Turn your house into a brothel for a night. You'll make some money. You don't have to report it to taxes.
My biggest issue with the plot so far is that he didn't want the sex worker party.
Yeah.
Your friend was literally hiring sex workers for you. It feels like you could have really rode that coolness. Like, just have everyone show up at your house and have a joint party with all your friends.
Yeah.
That's a plot hole.
So the party's a big hit. And the recruiter from Princeton shows up to the house during the fun.
What?
He says he's there to see Joel, but he may have just said that as a cover for going to a pop-up brothel. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll never know.
Oh.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The Princeton interview does not go well, but the recruiter sticks around for the brotheling. And when the party wraps up, Joel and Lana go have sex on the L train.
Yes. Yep.
And listen, I'll tell you what, you guys. I wouldn't eat a Snickers bar on the L train. But, God bless. Good for you. Have a good time.
I have seen a lot of things on the L train, but sex is not going to be one that I would recommend on the L train.
But his parents are gone. Like, why are they going to the L train to do that? Like, they've got the empty house, right?
Doesn't the whole movie, she's like, I want to have sex on a real train.
I mean, I think an L train's a real train. It's not the nicest one. It's not the Orient
Definitely
Express.
not, especially not in the 80s. Yeah.
So the next day...
Wait, did you say it's not the Orient Express?
I mean, there's no dining car.
Sure isn't.
My deep and vast train knowledge.
Oh, man.
So the next day, Joel's dad's car is done being repaired.
Oh, quick.
Which may be the fastest repair job in the history of cars.
Yeah, for sure.
When Joel gets back from picking up the car, he finds his parents' house is empty, courtesy of Guido.
Like they stole everything, right? Like
yep.
all
emptied out.
Fully emptied out the house.
Oh, shitballs. Well, that's what you get for having sex on the L train.
Guido, always the entrepreneur, tells Joel that he'll sell Joel his parents' furniture back. And Joel agrees, and he and his friends get all the furniture moved back into the house before he and his parents get home. Because Joel uses the leftover money from the sex party, the brotheling party.
Okay.
So Joel ends up getting into Princeton because there was never any doubt that that's how this was going to work out. Like, we all knew that's how it was going to go.
Well, you can blackmail the recruiter now.
Yeah. This isn't Tom Cruise's best movie, but it is his Pretty Woman, I would say. And I think that's a high compliment.
I don't know if it was clear that I've never seen this movie, but I don't know what to say after hearing the plot of it.
Yeah.
I know Risky Business. I know the dance scene. That's it. I've never seen the movie. So I didn't actually know what it was about. It's a lot darker than pop culture has it. Yeah, has you believe it. Yeah.
So from this description, do you think you're going to watch the movie?
If it was on, maybe I would catch some of it.
Funny.
Yeah, I would. But I kind of feel like Heath's rendition is all I need.
That's all you really need. Yeah,
that's all I really need. Well, it's a tough transition from sex workers to what I'm gonna bring up.
Let's hear it.
I wanted to talk about a toy that I was fascinated with, and that debuted in 1983, and that's a little something called a wacky wall walker.
Oh my God.
You might remember these as the thing you would get in a cereal box.
Oh, yeah.
They came And you could throw them at the wall.
Very clear memory of the texture, the feel of it.
They were weird. They were a weird texture. But
I
they
don't
would
think
stick
we were
to
allowed
the wall.
to throw them on the wall.
You weren't, because they left a grease stain. Yeah.
I remember when they would get all the lint and hair stuck to them.
Oh, yes.
Too.
Yeah.
And someone told me once you can wash them, and I was too afraid to ever do that because I was like, that doesn't make sense. The sticky will wear off. Like, that was my brain. But so wacky wall walkers were basically a toy molded out of a sticky elastomer, shaped similar to an octopus. And when you would throw it against the wall, it would walk down kind of like Onyx octopus legs was the idea, except usually it was just like the heavier part of the octopus falling forward. And then, I was obsessed. They came in all kinds of cereal boxes, Fruit Loops. I feel like probably some I feel like I specifically remember Rice Krispies because I think that's why I asked for Rice Krispies was like, they have wacky wall walkers in them. And I don't like Rice Krispies, but I want that wacky wall walker. So before its introduction in the United States, the guy who invented them received several sticky octopus-like toys from his mother who lived in Japan for like his son. And he was like, oh, these are kind of great. And ran with it and made a prototype and everything to sell in the United States. And they took off. He purchased the rights to the product for $5,000 in 1983. And he marketed them locally in Washington, D.C., where he lived. So that's where it like started. And basically it was like a mediocre reception until someone from the Washington Post wrote an article about them. And then it like exploded. Everybody wanted them. They were running to the stores to purchase them, and then obviously he got the cereal deals and whatever else to put them wherever. Because of his success, they called this guy who invented it Dr. Fad, because he went on to help. Yeah, he became like a consultant to help other people that wanted to invent things. Because I guess if you do a wacky wall walker, you're
the guy.
You're the guy. There was even an animated Christmas special called Deck the Halls with Wacky Walls.
What?
I did not see that. It was in 1983. But as
was
Amy,
B. Arthur on it?
I think so. I think so. Just
around.
chucking wall walkers at the wall. And as Amy mentioned, a lot of people were not allowed to play with them because sometimes they left like a grease spot that you actually can't get out. I didn't realize how annoying that was until I became a parent. And there is like new iterations of wacky wall walkers, and a lot of them are kind of sold as like fidget toys and like squish balls and stuff. And if you throw them, they leave a greasy print on your wall that you can't get off with anything. And even if you paint over, you have to paint over like multiple times to get it to go away.
They kind of left it on your hands too.
Yes. Yeah. It was an odd, but little Aaron didn't care. I wanted those octopus, and I wanted them. And there was a version that they went through like a glow in the dark phase, and they would glow in the dark. The wacky. I don't know what you're doing with it in the dark, but wacky wall walking. Mm-hmm.
That. As soon as I saw the image of it, it was an immediate like, oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was.
Also, do they still put toys in cereal?
I can't think.
Really?
No, I was thinking that too, and I was trying to think of any box that I bought recently, and no.
I think a few years ago when the new Jurassic Park movies came out, maybe when the second or third one came out, I don't know if it was Captain Crunch or what I was eating, but they had like a spoon, a Jurassic Park spoon that you could eat your cereal with.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Sometimes they do now, like you'll have the sealed bag of cereal inside the box, and they'll slide something like in the front in another sealed bag. Like you don't get the joy like you did where it was in the cereal, and you had to wait to.
You gotta dig
the
in
day
there.
you were pouring it out.
Yeah. That was my parents' rules, that no one could dig through the box. You just had to wait till it fell out, and which is fair. I mean, to let us just dig in the cereals does seem gross, but
with little kid hands digging in the gross.
But I don't. They'll be like little hologram books or a set of stickers or something. They're not like as exciting as it was for us.
I remember when we'd be pouring out cereal and there'd be like a burnt piece of cereal or something, like a black or dark brown.
Yes.
I would be like, I'm not eating any of this. It's a bug. It's contaminated. Get it out of here.
Yes.
Oh, thanks for that blast.
I know, wacky wall walker.
Well, my next one is from space.
Uh-oh. Again?
We're going to space because I do love the space. And on June 18th, 1983, Sally Ride became the first American woman in space. And I say American because the Soviet Union was already sending women up there. As a kid and a young adult, Sally was really into tennis, and she was heading down the path of being like a pro tennis player. But I think when she was in college, she was like, I don't really see a future in this. So she instead pivoted and went to physics and went on to get a doctorate in physics.
Hell of a pivot.
As you do.
Yep.
And in 1977, NASA placed an ad in newspapers looking for young scientists to serve as mission specialists on future space flights. So imagine you're opening the Des Moines Register.
I would think that was a scam.
Right?
We don't want old scientists. We want young scientists.
That feels like something I would cut out and take to my parents, and they'd be like, that's not real.
Right.
Yeah.
But apparently it was real, because Sally Ride responded, and she was one of only 5 women selected for NASA's class of 78. And over the next 5 years, she went through a lot of training, including parachute jumping and water survival. And because she was an athlete, she did it all really well. Mm-hmm. And because she was a smarty pants, she did all the science stuff really well. Then in 1983, she got placed on the space shuttle. And the best part of that is the media and their interview questions for her, which included...
You're going to bring makeup to space?
That's exactly one of the questions they asked. Are you going to bring makeup to space, and how? How are you going to manage your beauty routine while you're in space?
Fuck you. That's how I'm going to manage it.
They also asked, how is going to space going to affect your ability to reproduce?
Oh my God. That's atrocious.
Well, I'm barren, so thanks for bringing that up.
And Sally Ride responded with grace, but she did say, later, it's too bad this is such a big deal. It's too bad our society isn't further along, which is a kind way of saying, fuck all of you.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, it wasn't just the media, it was NASA itself, because they tried to give her a makeup kit to take with her. And they also, which is now kind of a famous fact, gave her 100 tampons to last a week. To last the week. And they asked her if that was enough.
You're scientists. What in the world?
And her response was like, you can half that and then half it again. And it'll still be too much. We don't need,
yeah. What are we
That's
doing?
even if she's on her period.
Yeah, that's 1 week.
I was going to say, it's too bad if she had to go to space on her period. That's just too bad.
Yeah,
it's unfortunate timing.
Really bad. But also the fact that, they the scientists planned the weight of the space shuttle down to the probably microgram, right? Yeah. So they planned on here's 100 fucking tampons. We're going to include this in the weight calculations because that's the level of research we're willing to go to, but we won't really wonder if that's actually what women need.
It's what it is very revealing as to why there wasn't a woman before that, because they were like, well, the tampons alone are going to throw off the weight of the whole thing. And then someone, probably a female, was like, but it's 1 week, so we might not even be dealing with that. And they're like, we don't know what space does to a uterus. We do not know.
Yep.
It could shed itself immediately.
What about the makeup? How much poundage are we talking with the makeup?
Mascara's heavy. I just don't know if we can do that. I just don't know.
So over her week in space...
Did she have her period?
That I don't know. But she had plenty of tampons if she did.
Goodness.
She was the flight engineer. She launched a couple communication satellites. She conducted a few experiments. And then the next year, 1984, she joined another shuttle crew. After that mission, she didn't go on anymore, but she was one of the investigators of the Challenger accident.
Oh.
She, had sort of a consulting role for NASA. And then also at the University of California, she served as director of the California Space Science Institute. And she led a bunch of efforts to build up STEM education for girls.
Mm.
Wow, that's cool.
And during that whole time, she was quiet about her personal life, but she was living with a lady.
What?
Oh.
She was secretly a gay icon.
No wonder she didn't need makeup.
Everybody knows lesbians don't need it. She lived with Tam O'Shaughnessy for 27 years.
Tam? Tam's Bush?
That's right.
That's a shout out to Tammy Blackstone.
That's right. So not only was she a trailblazer, in space, but down here on Earth, she was a gay icon. And she died in 2012 from cancer, but quite a interesting life.
Yeah. Man, the questions that she had to endure. The meetings that she had to endure about silly, silly things, I bet.
Can you even imagine? I mean, these are just the things that we know of. There had to be so much ludicrous stuff. One of those meetings was probably like, she was probably just sitting through it like, I don't know how to explain to you how women's bodies work.
Yeah.
Like, all right.
I can't believe 100 tampons. I mean, someone could have just asked, like, do you need tampons? How many?
Yeah. Yeah, we need to if they have to factor it in or whatever for weight, I guess.
They'd also gone to the extent of, like, making it a pack where they're all connected. So she was pulling out a tampon, and it was just like almost a condom thing, where it's just all connected.
What?
And it just kept going and going and going. So they went to that level.
Did they think you just kept putting more in there?
I think they were doing that so that they didn't just go flying around the space shuttle, like they were connected.
Yeah.
But still, you went to the effort of doing that without asking, is 100 right? Is that...
Well, probably what happened is that the male astronaut that was going with her was like, listen, you make sure there's enough tampons on there because I swear to God, if she runs out and I have to hear about it or there's stuff floating around, I will have this shuttle as my own.
Yeah.
That would have been great, though, if they would have, like, called up there and they would have been on camera. There just would have been tampons floating around. Yeah. I would have just been like, listen, you guys, you put 100 in here. We don't need them. The bin came open.
Yeah.
They're just up here.
Things are wild.
Uh-huh. All right. You going to finish this out, Heath?
I can do that. I don't really have one. My last thing is more just TV in 1983. Great. Things that happened on TV.
Absolutely.
It was lots of milestone events.
Okay, I love that.
On February 5th in 1983, the first part of a very special 2-part episode of Different Strokes aired.
Oh, boy.
And it was called The Bicycle Man, in which Arnold and his friend Dudley encounter a pedophile, played by Gordon Jump, who was the station manager on WKRP in Cincinnati, for those of you who are familiar with that show.
What?
It's broadcast on NBC, and it's kind of notable. It started the trend of the very special episodes thing that happened so much in the 80s. It was like 40% of the TV episodes around in the 80s were very special episodes.
Wait, okay. So this storyline, he's a pedophile. So they come in contact with him. Like, is he trying to get, like, what is the story?
He's fixing their bicycle or something and goes to that bicycle shop or something like that, as I recall. And he invites him in the back and no one actually gets molested. But I think afterwards, like, he gets in trouble. They figure out that he molested some other kids. Like, Arnold didn't get molested.
What the fuck?
Also, that was a prevailing theme in the 80s, that pedophiles were on bikes always.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Wow, I'm sorry. I had to ask her further details. My mind was blown. I didn't remember that happened. Yeah.
Yep, The Bicycle Man.
The title of the next horror movie.
Such a random.
Just a few weeks after that, a different TV show, MASH, aired its final episode, and more than 125 million people watched that show.
Jesus.
It was the most viewed television show broadcast in the United States in history until the Super Bowl in February of 2010. 30 years.
Yeah, that's
125 million. And, like, usually the U.S. has what, like 375 million for our population? That is
it's significant.
So many.
Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, then when I was thinking about when I read about the Super Bowl, then it got me thinking about what, Janet Jackson and, all that in 2004, the Super Bowl. And so I went through and, like, after that happened in 2004, for the next several years, the only people the NFL had playing halftime was just old men. That's all they had playing. They had, in 2010, it was The Who.
Oh.
Yeah.
And prior to that, it was Paul McCartney, the Rolling Stones, Prince, Tom Petty, and Bruce Springsteen. Were all the people that played between 2010 and 2004.
Let's play it real safe. Isn't it? Not going to see any nipples from them. No kids.
Paul McCartney knows better than to take his top off on the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Does he?
At this point, he could get away with it.
Yeah.
A few weeks after that, on March 19th, we're back to Different Strokes.
Oh, boy.
Because Nancy Reagan makes a special appearance.
What?
Beginning her Just Say No anti-drug campaign. Like, listen, you guys, Different Strokes, they were fixing us all.
Yeah,
they were saving our childhoods. Yep.
And they didn't even bring up the fact that she was the blowjob queen of Hollywood.
She was back.
Yeah.
The blowjob queen's back.
With a slogan that said, just say no.
Ironically.
Exactly.
Just say no to that in your mouth.
In May of 1983, the concert special Motown 25, Yesterday, Today, Forever, was broadcast. And Michael Jackson sang Billie Jean and performs the moonwalk for the first time ever. And people lost their shit.
Lost it.
Uh-huh. And Nancy Reagan was so upset by it, she took a Tylenol. No, she didn't. She said yes to drugs. Later that fall, let's see, the band Kiss officially appears in public without makeup for the first time since its very, very early days. They were on MTV to promote their album Lick It Up.
Ugh.
And you know what I want to see without makeup on? The reanimated corpse of Nancy Reagan. That would get my attention. I want to see her with zero makeup on.
You have.
Oh,
It's
that
the
would
Crypt
be
Keeper.
alarming.
It's terrifying.
Her jaw would have just been worked to the...
We've never seen such bone loss in a jaw.
Right, yeah.
How did that work?
She could pick up a car with that thing. So strong.
Did you know she can unhinge it?
Just unlock it and go to
Just
town.
unlock it, drop it, put it back in place.
This was something weird. This is a very weird story that I think I'm kind of surprised. I bet you would be interested in this, Aaron. So during a live NBC News update, anchor Jessica Savage appears incoherently. She's slurring her speech. She deviates from her copy and starts ad-libbing her report. And she'd kind of been dogged by rumors of drug abuse and instability, but her contract was still renewed. Okay, great. But she drowns in a car accident 3 weeks later.
Oh my God! Wait, she drowns in a car accident?
She'd been on a date, and after leaving the restaurant, her date accidentally drove the car off the road, and it landed upside down in a canal. It was about 5 feet deep, so it wasn't very deep.
Good Lord.
The car sunk into deep mud, and it sealed the door shut. So both her and her date drowned upside down in a car. And when they found the car and the bodies, he was behind the wheel, and she was in the back seat with her dog.
With her dog?
With her dog.
But she was on a date with her dog in the back
That's a
seat?
good question. Okay.
Yeah. Like, did the dog stay in the car while they were in the restaurant? Or did they get to bring the dog in?
Why'd you have to bring the dog into this?
So do you think she was in the front seat and then climbed in the back when she knew she was going to die to comfort the dog? Or do you think he was doing like driving Miss Daisy and she was riding in the back with the dog?
I assumed she was just riding in the back with the dog.
Huh.
Wow.
But yeah, like they did autopsies and stuff, and like I think each of them had half a glass of wine, so they weren't drunk or anything like that. He just drove poorly.
Was it a professional hit? Was it the news station that was like, we got to take this guy's gonna, we got to take her out.
Mm-hmm.
Or the dog. We don't know what the dog was up to. The dog could have been the target.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm gonna forgive the dog, whatever the dog did.
Yeah, that's fair. Wow.
In November of 1983, Sesame Street dealt with the sensitive issue of death when Big Bird learns about the concept after his friend Mr. Hooper dies.
Oh.
Yeah,
And I remember watching this, and I kind of understood kind of what they were talking about. However, I kind of wish that Big Bird would have had like a breakdown like Sally Field did in Steel Magnolias. I feel like if like we would have all really got it. We would have all like if Big Bird would have just lost his shit on
He would
somebody.
just act better, Big Bird.
That would have been healing, I think, for a lot of people. You know, sometimes it's healing to see a breakdown.
Let those emotions out. And then in December, the nearly 14-minute music video for Michael Jackson's Thriller
Oh my God.
is broadcast for the first time. It'll become one of the most popular music videos of all time. And I watched it once, and I've never seen it again.
That's right.
Because that shit is scary, and I was probably still sorting through my Mr. Hooper stuff, and there's zombies in it, and it's just too much for me to deal with.
It's a terrifying one.
And finally, on December 21st, right before Jesus' birthday, Gerald Ford, Betty Ford, and Henry Kissinger appeared on ABC's Dynasty.
What?
No.
Move out of the way, Nancy Reagan. You're not the only first lady on TV this year.
What?
They made cameos as themselves attending a charity ball. But I don't like. What? I don't get it. Like, I mean, Henry Kissinger? Like,
Henry fucking Kissinger. Why did...
Do you think they were like secretly fans and were like, could we be on the show?
Yeah.
That feels like the only, because like I'm trying to imagine the Dynasty
like those
writers,
three had like a watch night like every week,
and they were like, "Do you think we could get on?"
Yeah,
because otherwise you have to imagine the opposite side, which is a writing room in which they're like, "What if we got Henry Kissinger to come to this ball?" Which, okay, when I say doesn't sound all that unplausible, that they're like, "Okay, bet whoever can get Henry Kissinger to come on the show." Gets to write the finale.
Yeah, that's like somebody who's just like trying to work in the most absurd thing, like try to do this. But I do feel like, I mean, I didn't see the episode, but I like to think that Joan Collins and Betty Ford got into like a fight and a physical altercation, and then you could see when their very obvious stunt doubles were put in.
Yes,
I would like that.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Wow.
Yep.
That's
TV in 1983 was all over the place.
It was wild.
It was. Yep. That's I'm going to piggyback on that.
Okay.
Because I had something written down from 1983 that was also Pinnacle TV. This aired in the summer of 1983, and it's someone who is also near and dear to my heart from childhood. I have a deep affinity for this person. Didn't remember this specifically, but Mr. Rogers aired a 5-episode arc about nuclear war.
What?
In 1983. He felt like it was something that children were worried about. There was a study or a survey that had gone around.
I was worried about it, so he was right. He was right.
Well, I don't remember what publication, I don't know if I wrote it down, but they were, they did a survey of kids, and one of the things that was coming up over and over was Cold War, nuclear war, this, there was a lot of language around that in the news, and so he thought, this is his opportunity, because famously he liked to address huge things like that in a way that was manageable for kids, because his whole theory was that if it's acknowledgeable, it's manageable. Like, we can talk about it and get you, not that we can take the fear out of it, but we can just make it so we can have an open dialogue about it. So he didn't realize, though, that was going to basically, the episodes were going to come out right before Reagan made some very specific decisions.
With Star Wars?
And so he was like, little did I know we would be involved in worldwide conflict right now, but that's all the better because our show gives families an opportunity for communication. If children should hear the news of war, at least they have a handle here to assist in family communications. So it was a 5-part series titled Conflict. And he used the puppets. If you're not familiar with Mr. Rogers, there was King Friday, Lady
Elaine Fairchild.
There it is, Lady Aberline. I was only thinking of Aberline. I'm like, the Fairchild's in there. Daniel the Tiger. So King Friday, who is voiced by Rogers, is handed a computer readout that tips him off to some counterintelligence. Cornflake especially, ruler of the neighboring land of Southwood, is allegedly making bombs. So in a panic, King Friday orders his underlings to do the same, mobilizing efforts to make certain that they can match Southwood's fiery superweapons, even if it means not having the financial resources to care for his people in other ways.
Oh, Mr. Rogers, you were getting at it.
Elaine Fairchild and Lady Aberline are not convinced. Rather than succumb to paranoia, they decide to travel to Southwood to see for themselves. They find the citizens building a bridge, not a bomb. A misunderstanding had almost led to unnecessary violence. Obviously, no mushroom clouds envelop the neighborhood of make-believe, and none of them suffer from, radiation poisoning or any of those other things. But he was very specific in saying it's not really about war, it's about the prevention of war. It's about how these things take shape and take off. Gives people a chance to talk about it. So when they came out, they were being shown like in classrooms as an educational tool to kind of start to discuss some of these things. But then what's weird about it was that following that initial run, they have never been repeated. And they weren't found anywhere. You couldn't find them anywhere. They've never been released in syndication, like nothing. Wow. In 2017, they resurfaced briefly on YouTube before vanishing again. And now supposedly it's uploaded to a site called Daily Motion Video in 2018. But there was nothing to verify if you could actually still watch them or see them. But and there's like the vanilla report that says that they thought it was so specific to a certain thing that then they didn't feel the need to replay it again. But that's not what this really is, in my opinion. But yeah, I do not remember this.
Not at all.
Didn't remember it. 5 episodes for Mr. Rogers. That's a lot to cover,
Do you think Nancy Reagan got to him? And that's why those episodes disappeared?
Probably.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, something happened that those episodes got taken out. And they were like, we don't like what you're up to. Because basically he was taking the stance like, this is stupid if we...
In all seriousness, though, the fact that, like, you know, then Reagan announced his weird-ass initiative, like, I wonder if the government did be like, you can't air these again.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was public television, so
Yeah,
I'm sure,
exactly.
I mean, that money comes from the government. I'm sure somebody from the Reagan White House called up and was just like, that's a no.
Mm-hmm. And I remember, like, when I was a little bit older and, like, saying I liked Mr. Rogers when I was younger, people would be like, oh, he's a weirdo. He's this, he's that. And I'm like, he's, like, I think you didn't understand the show.
No.
You know? Like, you're fearful of something, clearly, that isn't there.
He's not the bicycle man.
No.
He's not the bicycle man.
No. And, like, I mean, yes, is the show move slower than your normal, like, Saturday cartoon or something like that? Yes. But that was, like, the genius of it was just how sort of calming it was and how he would put things in such simple terms for kids to understand and you could get it right away. And it was, I loved that show. Didn't remember the nuclear war arc.
Not at all. No.
But congratulations, I say.
Well, to finish us out, I've got the National Spelling Bee. In 1983, a young Blake Giddens won the 56th National Spelling Bee by spelling the word Purim, as in the Jewish holiday.
That's only got 5 letters in it.
Right. And I thought this was interesting because the 2024 contest is this month, but also it got me thinking, could we spell the winning words over time? Oof. So let me first say...
Okay, this feels really pointed. Just because I misspelled hamster last week, now we're doing a goddamn spelling bee? Come on.
How many of these words have a hidden P in them?
Yeah.
All of them. All of them. But first, the Scripps National Spelling Bee, it started in 1925. We're almost at the 100th anniversary, with only a couple years off for World War II and for COVID. Most of the participants are from the U.S., but there's also people from around the world. You can't be older than 14, and you can't be past 8th grade. So this is a lot of pressure on young kids.
Yeah, very.
And also, you know, not to brag, but also to brag, I won the spelling bee twice in elementary school. So once in 4th grade, once in 5th grade, and in 4th grade, I beat the 5th graders.
So you were a repeat champion. You said twice, but actually that was back-to-back championships, which we know ups your championship factor.
Yes. And in my head, when I beat the 5th grader, I remember a resounding round of applause. I don't know if that actually happened, but in my head it did.
It did, yeah. There's an underdog element there, definitely.
Yeah. So I looked up all the winning words over time.
Oh, no.
And it's fascinating because there's some real, like, okay, so like from 1940 and 1941, the words were therapy and initials. Like, these are pretty easy words.
Yeah.
But then, like, over time, it gets real weird. And every once in a while, there's just a strange word. So in 1925, the very first word was gladiolus. Anyone want to take a crack at how to spell gladiolus?
I don't even know what that is.
It's a perennial flower, also known as the sword lily.
Oh. I thought it was like the fallopian tubes. Thought it was in that
I'd
region.
rather spell fallopian tubes if possible.
All right, so we're going to pass on gladiolus?
I can.
Yeah,
You can do it.
You
You
can
can
go
do
for
it.
it.
Gladiolas. Gladiolas. Gladiolas.
Almost. L-U-S.
Oh, fuck.
Oh, that you. God damn it. God damn it.
Fantastic. Well done. Almost.
I felt like I was playing the part of a parent in a spelling bee because I started to get nervous where I'm like, you can do it, Heath. You can do it. You can do it.
All right, how about from 1967, the word chihuahua?
Ooh, I can never spell this word correctly.
I mean, I've seen the poster for Beverly Hills Chihuahua a lot, that movie. I know it. C-H-U-A-U-A.
Is there an I? Is it C-H-I?
Are you just listing letters now?
A-U-A-U-A-U-S.
It's C-H-I-H-U-A-H-U-A.
Okay.
1999, the last of our decades here. Logorrhea.
Is that when you have diarrhea on a logging truck? What is that?
It is.
I called in sick with logorrhea once.
It's when you're too talky or too wordy. You have logorrhea. Like, who came up with that, first off?
What? Also, it feels like a low-key insult to the participants. Like, logorrhea, spell that, wordy motherfucker.
It does kind of feel, especially over time, they're increasingly like, these fucking smarty pants, we're going to really trick
How about
them.
logorrhea? Ever heard of that?
So logorrhea is Logorrhea.
Never would have gotten there.
Yeah. But over the 2000s, the words get so fucking weird and out there. So 2011, I want to see if you can take a crack at this. Wait. Never mind, I can't even say it. It's a word meaning. How would you say that?
Symmetricious?
Yeah, it's having wavy hair.
Oh.
Like, that's the word for that.
That's called a perm.
That's called a perm. We'll round it out with last year's word.
Okay.
Which is samophile.
Ooh.
Which is a plant or animal that prefers or thrives in sandy areas.
Oh, I thought it was going to be a sandwich expert.
I thought it was going to be a curl
And
specialist.
remember our discussion about silent P's.
Oh.
Samophile. Anyone want to try?
So it has a P in it. Mm-hmm. Samophile.
You want to try it for the win?
How about Somophile?
It's P.S.
What?
Ammophile. Like, that's just a trickster of a word. Why are you doing that
Right
to
there
kids?
in the front.
Yeah.
Rude.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, spelling bee. Boom. The winning word was Purim. 5 letters in 1983.
I still wouldn't have won. That's too hard.
I wonder if Blake Giddens feels like he won too easily.
I'm
and
sure
what he's
he doesn't.
doing today.
I feel like he brings that word up a lot.
I bet he at barbecues is like, did you know?
Listen.
When I was 13.
He's the guy at barbecues that everyone is like deciding whether to RSVP, and low-key they're checking in with everyone else and they're like, is he going?
Is he going?
Because if he is, we have plans.
Because he's going to start a spelling bee and none of us want to be part of this.
And we're done. We did that one time and it wasn't that great then.
Nope.
No.
And he tries every time. And it's always the last word is Purim. And we're done. We're out.
Yeah, I think that's what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Also, who started spelling bees?
I don't know, but it's been going on for 100 years.
100 years, 100 tampons.
That's right. Oh, a space tampon for every year.
Oh,
I wonder if the space tampons are more absorbent, too. So not only were there 100, there were 100, like, super, super plus absorbency.
Probably.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because of gravity.
Just sucking the uterus.
Oh, my God.
Sucking that uterus dry of any moisture.
You know what would be a good band name? Space Tampon.
That's actually amazing. That's actually amazing.
I think that might go into the title for this episode. Fuzzy Memories is a Broads and Books production. It's hosted by Heath Smith, Aaron Johnston, and Amy Lee Lillard. The show is produced by Amy Lee Lillard. Follow us at Fuzzy Memories Pod on Instagram for clips and highlights. And follow us at Broads and Books Productions for updates on new shows coming your way. See you next time.
So I recently, just for nostalgia, I guess, bought a box of corn pops.
Oh, I used to love those.
Don't do it.
Oh.
Because
It's funny because looking at the Fruit Loops, I was like, those look good. I need to have those again.
I had Fruit Loops for breakfast on Thursday morning.
you?
yeah, Evan loves Fruit Loops, so we always have Fruit Loops at the house. Yeah.
But corn pops, not good?
Well, what I didn't remember is that they're all different shapes. and like sizes, so they're real hard to eat. Like I don't know if that's more of a new manufacturing phenomenon, but then there's a bunch of random pieces that are real hard. Like you go to bite and you're like, ow.
Right,
like
and you get Captain Crunch mouth, where your gums are all torn up.
Yeah, the roof of your mouth, it was sore
not
afterwards.
good.
Yeah, so as much as I would like to send you down that
I'm not gonna
lane, you shouldn't go, because I literally ate one bowl of the box and I was like, I can't do this. It's like,
giving your jaw a workout.
I mean,
I can't
it
get my
hurt
jaw
my
a
teeth.
workout.
Yeah, you definitely can.
Yeah.
But it was also like, as you get older, your teeth are sensitive too. And I'd bite down and be like, ow, this should not be happening.
Do we have any soft porridge?
Yeah. Soft porridge.